Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Megan McElroy. I am an AWS technical sales engineer working with different distributors such as Ingram Micro for the public sector vertical. And so today we're going to be talking about end user computing. So what that means from an AWS standpoint, some of the obstacles that you might see within your workforce, within your university. Really want to look at what that landscape looks like, take a look at some of the different tools that AWS has, and then we're also going to visit a few customer case studies to round out the knowledge that we'll have here today. So with that, let's dive in. So right now, recruiting, empowering, a lot of different things that are happening within a differentiated workforce. And that's something that it's become a whole job for the entire company. It involves the C-suite level. It can involve HR, leadership, IT. But these days, IT plays a pretty outsized role. And it's getting harder for customers to continue to, overcome these challenges of empowering that modern workforce. So there's three key challenges that we have been seeing within the market. So first is going to be that more distributed and flexible workforce. It's not news to anyone that the world has changed. Working from home is now a pretty permanent part of how we're going to work moving forward. And that's in addition to the trends that we already saw before COVID-19 of, more distributed workforce with a global supply chain, and a shift in how workers are really structured within that workforce. So the workforce could be anywhere, and IT has to make sure that they are empowered to work from their best spot on a moment's notice. The second challenge is the need to improve productivity. Productivity is always going to be something that's at the forefront of someone's mind when they're thinking about, okay, what can we do with our workforce? How can we empower them? It comes down to really what are they doing with their time? Are they using it to the best of their ability? So that need to improve productivity really stems from the need to have that in place because the competition is getting tougher. The cloud is accelerating companies in every segment, every industry, even outside of public sector, but really trying to unleash the innovation that's available to them as they're migrating to a cloud environment. So right now, I don't think you'd ever talk to someone who'd say, my workforce is way too productive. That's a great problem to have, but typically there's going to be that need to improve that productivity. And so that's something that we'll definitely address today when we talk about the tools. And then the third is never compromising on security and reliability. Those are huge pillars for AWS, for our cloud value proposition when we talk to different partners is the security and reliability that our platform offers. So with data becoming a lot more digital and way more powerful, and then you take that in combination with the highly distributed workforce that we're seeing, there's the opportunity for people to try and outsmart the technical teams and to try and, get in through a data breach. That can cost millions of dollars. It can impact a brand, not just for a few months after that happens, but for years. So security is more critical than ever and is always something that we're thinking about when we're thinking about how can our public sector customers protect themselves. Security is going to really be at the forefront of our minds. And then reliability is also something that's going to be non-negotiable. So if the workforce is down, then delivering for your customers is down too. So it's really going to see that trickle-down effect. So how can we really address that at the start and make sure that there is a strategy or tools in place to help? So the good news is these are the types of challenges that cloud is really designed to help out with. So specifically the AWS Cloud, how can we address these challenges? So we're thinking when we're looking at that first one of a more distributed and flexible workforce, that can be addressed through the elasticity and global availability that AWS is available to offer. Workers are working from home, offices are anywhere. Companies are increasingly opening remote offices. And so it's really critical to have the right tools in place if you want to be able to adapt to the changing world and just some of the changing preferences of your workforce. So customers used to have to over-provision to ensure they had enough capacity. We have to be able to handle, our workforce operations at the peak level of activity. But now, when we're looking at cloud, they can provision the amount of resources that they actually need. They have full peace of mind that they can instantly scale up or down along with the needs of their business, and then that's in turn going to reduce cost. And AWS also enables customers to deploy globally within minutes. So we, have the concept of a region, which is a physical location around the world where we cluster our data centers, and then we call each group of those data centers availability zones. And so with this global infrastructure, you're able to leverage 77 availability zones around the world, 24 different geographic regions. And so for almost every worker, there's an AWS region nearby. So we know that's very important to our customers from a global standpoint. So ensuring that that's available is really going to be key to address that distributed workforce. Moving on to that second challenge of productivity. The way that we see this is through choice, customer obsession, and pay as you go. So I'm sure you've heard these terms when talking about AWS before, but the innovation that AWS has really unleashed has led to an incredible number of different applications that are available through our cloud. They give customers and partners the choice. You have the choice to find the exact application that's needed for your team. And when you look at that application, you say, okay, now what is this going to cost? How can we budget this in? And so that's where the pay-as-you-go approach for pricing comes in. So with AWS, you're just going to pay only for the individual services that you need for as long as you use them. You don't have to do any type of long-term contracts. There's no complex licensing that needs to be put in place. You're really just paying for the services that you consume. And then once you stop using them, there's no termination fees or anything like that. You just have the freedom to try out different services, see what works for you, really find the best thing that's going to work within your cloud environment for your architecture. And one of the ways that we really see our customer obsession shining through is through different, periodic price reductions. But there's been a ton since the inception of AWS, but it's a normal part of business. So we continue to see that, in the future. It's part of our pricing philosophy is to really work relentlessly to help take costs out of your own cost structure and pass those savings down to customers through our pricing. And then the third challenge of really making sure that security and reliability are top of mind. So security is always going to be a top priority. I've said that before, and I think it's something that customers are always going to need to consider regardless of the industry that they're in. But AWS has been architected to be the most flexible and secure cloud environment available today. So our core infrastructure is built to satisfy those different security requirements that might be in place for military organizations, for highly sensitive data. AWS uses the same secure hardware and software to build and operate in each of our regions. So all of our customers benefit from, a commercial cloud that has been tested. It is secure enough to handle those sensitive workloads. And what's great too is it's backed by a deep set of cloud security tools. So we have a ton of tools that are associated with security, compliance, governance, and you're also able to look and see all the different certifications that we have in relation to security standards that are available around the world. So moving on, of course, the biggest change is going to be that move to a more distributed, a more flexible workforce. As I said before, 2020, we saw a big need to react quickly to shift to work from home. Practically overnight, almost all non-essential workers had to set up an office at home. You really had to rally to get them up and running and make sure that the way that they were using their applications was completely secure. They were able to connect to those, and they weren't experiencing downtime or latency. And so it's really a big part of that cloud strategy is seeing companies that are moving to a hybrid environment. So, surveying some of the different organizations around the country, a lot of executives say that they see their organizations heading in some kind of hybrid working environment, looking up to give up more office space and really helping their workforce take advantage of a distributed model. And so what's key is really investing to make sure that if we are going to move to a hybrid model, it's going to be secure. This is going to help the workforce. They're still going to be able to accomplish the goals that we have and really adhere to our mission and still maintain or increase that productivity. So if we're looking at, some of the figures here today, you see an investment in tools that are related to virtual collaboration or to infrastructure that is meant to secure that virtual connectivity. So that's primarily, and we see that figure right there, that's primarily what I would like to spend some time on today. So this is really where Amazon's end user computing services come into play. So the services that we're going to be talking about today are going to be Amazon WorkSpaces, which is going to be cloud-native persistent desktops, and then Amazon AppStream 2.0. And so that's cloud-native, non-persistent apps and desktops. And so these services are fantastic. They really enable your teams to securely access their desktops, their applications, any of the data that they need to get their jobs done. So, a simple mission, but that is what we need to be able to ensure that our workforce can do. So with these end-user computing services, they're designed for today's increasingly remote workforce, as we've said. That workforce needs to access content from anywhere while working across borders, time zones, organizations, and these services will give you that agility. So you can respond to the changing needs of your workforce. You can scale up or down depending on the resources that you might need. And then you can provide your teams with those resources, and you're not going to have to worry about deploying or operating physical infrastructure. So these services have the mission of delivering the ability to securely get work done from anywhere, from any device. It really comes back to that mission of how can we do this for our customers and keep that at top of mind as we're thinking through different use cases, different opportunities that customers bring to us. How can we do this for them and still adhere to this mission? And so it's really going to be through these services. So there's really going to be 4 core benefits to customers to choose AWS to deliver secure access to their end customers. So as we've said, first and foremost, security. We want to help customers increase security. That's what everything at AWS, we always start with security. And so our end user computing services are built on AWS Cloud. And as I said, over 200 security certifications built for the needs of those security-focused customers. So the services that we have here, they're deployed within what we call Amazon Virtual Private Network, and we use encrypted storage volumes to ensure that no user data is stored on a local device. So this is really going to help improve the security of the user data and reduce the overall risk there that's associated. Secondly, we're going to help increase agility. So as we've talked about scaling resources up and down at a moment's notice, not needing to plan for when we're going to need to increase the use of one of the resources that we might depend on. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the ability to say, okay, overnight, I need to move and have end user computing in place for, my entire agency. Being able to make a quick decision like that to allow your workforce to take advantage and still continue on with their jobs, that's going to be key. And so our services allow you can roll out Windows, you can use Linux from a desktop perspective, and you can have those applications anywhere in the world in minutes. And so when you think about end user computing, you can think about it as you can power it on when and where you need it. So thinking about tying back to agility and that flexibility in nature. The third is going to be an increase in reliability. So running different virtual desktop infrastructure on-prem is going to be hard. We want to make sure that our customers understand the power of cloud and how you can improve your end user productivity. So we're really looking at this virtualization and how we can ensure that customers are able to take advantage of the 99.9% uptime SLA that we offer. So they're not going to have to worry about constant outages, constant lagging, or latency. They can really depend on the cloud infrastructure that AWS has to offer through these different tools. And then the fourth benefit is going to be helping to save money in the long run. So we're running cloud at scale, we're keeping the infrastructure costs low, and we're passing that through to the customer. So we have a range of different instances that you could use for compute. You can really find the right level of performance for the users that you have at the right price. So as we mentioned before, it's pay as you go. There's no need to worry about buying servers, licenses. You don't have to pay for what you don't use, and you just get to go on and continue with your business. So I think what's important too to highlight about these services, along with these core benefits that we're talking about, is underlying all of this, we're a fully managed service. You have these virtual applications and desktops, and you are able to have all of the traditional, VDI complexity and take that away. You see that complexity with some of those traditional systems, and we're going to make sure that you're not having to deal with that. You are able to quickly design, provision, and manage your users' virtual applications and desktops, at a very secure level, and we're not going to be going through different discrete infrastructure levels. So the teams that are going to be managing these solutions, the technical, the IT teams, they're no longer burdened with having to perform and build different maintenance activities, and so they can really focus more on getting these applications deployed and then other high-value tasks that might add a layer of innovation to these or can really help create business value. So that's going to be another added benefit as well. And so what are some common use cases that we see? What are some of the different places that we've really seen AWS's end user computing tools shine through? And so the first is going to be with contact center agents. So with those agents, they're going to be the front line for customer experience. Organizations are increasingly having some of those agents working from home too. So WorkSpaces is going to be a great tool to enable organizations to allow those agents to work from anywhere securely, but also ensuring that, the corporate IP that they're using is going to be protected, and it's not going to be on an end user device. It's just going to be on these tools that we're using. The second area we see this in is through a contingent workforce. So a lot of agencies and different organizations are turning to contingent workers to increase agility, save money, and really capitalize on opportunities to grow. And so WorkSpaces enables you to deploy those desktops quickly so you can onboard and support new workers without having to buy and ship physical devices. And then let's say those contracts are over with, it's just as easy to scale that back. So WorkSpaces is really working to ensure that you can add or subtract to your workforce. It's very easy to get them onboarded. Sometimes that's the hardest part of bringing new people onto your workforce is the onboarding process and ensuring that you can plan for that, you can maintain your security, and WorkSpaces makes it really easy to do just that. The third area that we're going to look at, and this is something that's shared between workspaces and AppStream, is going to be remote work and that work from home workforce that we've really seen over the past year. So managing that permanent shift to a more flexible, more remote workforce, looking into those work from home options. Before the past year with the pandemic, some agencies within public sector, they never had to plan for that. Everyone was always in the office. It wasn't a strategy that they needed to worry about. But now with workspaces, you're able to give those users fully functional Windows and Linux desktops in minutes. So if you were to tell these agencies, hey, you can increase your security by keeping data off of the end user device, and you can increase reliability with the power of the AWS Cloud and the tools we're talking about today, why wouldn't you use this if you can do this for your workforce and allow them to work from home if that is needed? So really just ties into that flexibility there. And then now too, if we're looking at different, application migration, some of those more intensive applications, sometimes what the workforce really needs is to access these applications to get their job done. But those might not be lightweight applications per se. They might be hard to image or manage. They might require some extensive compute power to run locally. This could be true for business intelligence tools, resource planning. So workspaces makes it really easy to do that and deploy what you need on there. And it's very cost effective as well to be able to run those in the cloud. And then the final use case that we really see too, especially within public sector, within the education space, is remote students and labs. So during COVID especially, but also just in terms of changing landscapes and trends, schools and universities are increasingly looking to the cloud and AWS to really transform their lab spaces. So for students, that could be accessing a virtual computer lab in AWS. They can learn anytime, anywhere, on any device. It's not limited to how they can learn and continue to tap into that education that they're getting. And then on the flip side of that, for educators, lab transformation enables expanding the capabilities to deliver science, tech, engineering, art, math, a ton of different classes that are so beneficial for their students, and they can rapidly deliver them through distance learning. So that's where workspaces can really help schools and universities modernize their lab spaces in a cost-effective manner very quickly and securely. And so I want to drill into some of the different benefits that we've talked about too. So we've talked about increasing security, and that can be used to really protect company data. So it helps security teams protect their sensitive and valuable business and customer data, coupled with a strong authentication integration and secure access measures. So this is going to be really key when helping customers understand how these end user computing tools through AWS can help them, is having some of those measures built in. We're designing for the most sensitive workloads, and that's extremely meaningful when ensuring that a new solution to really help their workforce is put into place. And from a security standpoint, AWS supports more security standards and compliance certifications and provides auditing, reporting tools more than any other public cloud offering. So we're helping to really satisfy compliance requirements for virtually, every agency around the globe. So you can see a list of key certifications that, customers might be curious about and inquire about. And so we have this available to really give your security, the compliance, the risk teams peace of mind when thinking about, okay, what would it look like if I were to use the AWS end user computing tools? And as we said before too, we also want to increase agility. So having a fully managed service is really going to be unique to Amazon. So we provide a fully cloud managed VDI service that helps to enable the global scale, the reliability, the security that customers really demand. And so when you're thinking about the AWS virtual apps and desktops, you know, as we said before, that traditional complexity, we want to abstract that away. We want to make sure that customers are able to fully take advantage of this service to maintain their agility, to increase that awareness amongst teams, and they're not having to worry about the infrastructure and managing that and having to maintain that. And then as we talked about too, having a global infrastructure really allows for our end user computing services to be accessed all over the world. So we're increasing that reach and allowing for that increased agility to shine through with customers no matter what the location is. In terms of increasing reliability, so we've touched on this, but our tools are consistently delivered with high reliability and performance for our end customers. So we talked about that SLA, so consistently being able to deliver the 5 nines of availability backed by that SLA guarantee of 99.9% is really an incredible option for our customers. You know, we have our global infrastructure that is built around our regions and our availability zones, and this is just going to be that basis, that foundation for our services to run on. So you take AppStream, you take WorkSpaces, and you run that on AWS, our ETSU offering with built-in auto-scale load balancing, and you can predict the number of EC2 instances required based on maybe capacity metrics that you can provide. So being able to take a look at, you know, kind of simulate what would I need based on some of the requirements that I have. And you can have that put into place. You can have automation built in and really ensure that you're going to be able to run the workloads that you need with the resources that are required to run that. And we also really want to help customers to optimize on cost. So these tools are going to provide, you know, policies that technical teams can use to help control the cost of managed services. So that could be, you know, built-in cost optimization monitoring tools that can really analyze all of the instance data that might be available, and that will automatically convert the WorkSpaces tool that you have to the most cost-effective pay-as-you-go option. So built into the tool is something that, depending on, you know, a user's individual usage or what that looks like across the agency or organization, being able to have cost optimization right at your fingertips and make sure that you're able to have that built in is really going to be powerful for different teams. We also have something called auto stop. So auto stop stops the workspaces due to, you know, a certain specified time of inactivity. So it's really a stopgap that's put in place to enable less expensive hourly billing for users that might not spend their whole day on a workspaces. And similarly with AppStream, you are able to use on-demand instances to help reduce that cost. And then self-service user support is built in as well. So you can enable self-service workspaces, capabilities for your users to really reduce the IT support tickets that you might have, or provide users more control over their experience to perform tasks such as, you know, maybe restarting their virtual machine or changing the bundle type that they might have. So cost optimization is going to be something that is really built into the tools. It's something that we want to make sure that customers are able to take advantage of to really realize those savings. In terms of productive end users, this is something that productivity is going to be that thread that flows through workspaces, through AppStream, really ensuring that a workforce is able to increase their productivity and not lose out on that if something were to cause them to need to be a remote and distributed workforce. So, we're aiming to deliver those application and desktop experiences that feel and perform as if they were running locally, even though they're running in an AWS Cloud environment. So this is something that users are able to have that flexibility to perform, different tasks that historically they might have needed to be on premise. They wouldn't be able to do something remotely, but there's different capabilities built in to make sure that this is a rich remote experience. And also tying into that too, we want to make sure that device choice is something that users have the power over. So in addition to standard HTML5 browser access, users can work from virtually any device. So that could be traditional Windows, Mac, Linux PCs, iOS or Android tablets. There's a lot of different options. And so this is going to be great for customers to be able to choose what they want to use, depending on maybe what vertical within public sector they're in. It might be in education, tablets are used more often than not. And so we want to be able to give end users that choice. So what this is all going to come down to is going to be the right solution for your needs. So based on the flexibility of these end user computing tools, customers are able to achieve the right solution based on their requirements to really extend the flexible nature that they need and increase the agility in their remote workforce. So we're going to look at We're going to go on to a few case studies within the public sector vertical for AWS now. I hope that you are able to take away some of the core benefits, the use cases, what we really see as a great way to use these end user computing tools from AWS. And so let's see how some customers were able to use these effectively and realize some of the benefits from them. So the first one that we're going to look at, this is a government entity within Italy. So the use case that the challenge that they were facing was they really needed to continue operations completely uninterrupted during the COVID-19 pandemic, something that a lot of government entities or public sector agencies in general were facing. And so they were able to use Amazon WorkSpaces to enable remote working for their over 600 employees for months. And this was ensuring that they were in accordance with, the measures that Italy as a country had put in place for the pandemic. So what's great about this is there wasn't any discontinuation and their agility and productivity was maintained. They didn't lose any steam. There wasn't a gap in the performance here. So they're able to really just continue running very smoothly using the Amazon WorkSpaces tool. Switching gears to education. So we're going to be looking at the University of Virginia. So UVA was also able to utilize WorkSpaces. And what they wanted to do was address the growing demand and full capacity that was in their university labs, like what we talked about earlier. So they expanded their lab availability through rapid deployment of the WorkSpaces tool. And so this allowed students to work remotely. And something that's so important here is it highlighted the need for the university to prioritize the growth plans of remote access and distance learning for their academic programs, which is something I think we'll continue to see as a trend in the education space. And then finally, we'll take a look at East Tennessee State University. So they use AppStream 2.0, and so they benefited by using the AppStream 2.0 tool, and they were able to deploy this quickly over a few days to support remote working students with course critical applications, and they replaced that need for a physical computer lab. So these are different government entities, education, and university clients who are really able to see how can we use these end user computing tools effectively? How can we make this easier for our workforce, for our students, our educators? And they were able to take advantage of these tools and have them implemented quickly and effectively. And that's really what we want for customers, to be able to take advantage of these tools and still maintain the work that you have day to day, maintain the progress that you've made. So with that, thank you so much for joining the webcast. I really hope you learned a lot about AWS's end user computing tools. We will be taking questions now in the Q&A, so feel free to pop a question in there, and we'd love to answer that. If you have any use cases or situations you'd like to talk through, I really encourage you to reach out to your Ingram Micro AWS Public Sector team, and we will start going through those now.